After 12 heart-stopping seconds, my son's life-changing words exposed a hidden miracle of hope. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the old baseball diamond where shimmering dust glinted in the air. John watched with nervous anticipation as his 10-year-old son, Jake, stepped up to the plate. This wasn't just another practice, this was a moment teetering on the cusp of greatness or crushing disappointment. John's heart raced, each beat pounding like a drum in his chest, as he recalled just days earlier when Jake was cut from the youth baseball team. The weight of that disappointment loomed larger than any car he could fix in his small garage. If only he could show Jake that hard work does pay off. The thought felt heavy, like a stone lodged in his throat. Jake gripped his bat tightly, his small hands shaking less from fear than from the fiery determination that drove him. John tried to mask his anxiety with smiles, wishing he could somehow shield his son from the judgments of the world outside their backyard. In this moment, success on the field felt, for Jake, like the only thing that mattered. As silence enveloped them, stretching to 12 heart-stopping seconds, time seemed to freeze. The whole universe merged into this instant, the two of them against the world. Then, with a sharp crack, Jake swung. The ball zipped past, barely missing the bat, hope dashed like a wave retreating from the shore. The sting of failure flickered across Jake's face, but he took a deep breath and stepped back. In a gesture that caught John off guard, Jake scribbled something in the dirt with the end of his bat. John leaned closer, curiosity piqued. The seconds ticked by, and an unexpected calm surrounded them. As Jake finished his note, the energy shifted. The air crackled with anticipation. John wiped his brow and held his breath, looking at his son, whose small frame radiated something far larger than the heartbreak he felt. When Jake turned, clutching the bat, he looked up at John with bright eyes, sparkling with something deeper than victory. "Dad, look," he called, pointing down. In the dust, Jake had scrawled, "Every time I fall, I'll get back up." The words shimmered with a weight that transcended childlike innocence. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As John read those simple yet powerful words, a wave of emotion hit him like a gust of wind. How had he missed this resilience in Jake? This little boy, with his heart wide open, had shown him the true depth of strength. But with that realization came the struggle of doubt. Should John nurture Jake's passion for baseball, or should he help him prioritize the humility that came with those hard lessons? The pressure loomed heavier, pressing on his chest. Outside their small world, whispers from neighbors echoed those harsh judgments that defined success, wins, trophies, accolades. But in this very moment, standing beneath the warm sun, John felt an unexpected twinge of hope. Jake's words were not just a reflection of perseverance, they were the light they both needed, illuminating the uncertain path ahead. As John glanced at Jake, his earnest gaze and that hopeful smile, he couldn't shake the uncertainty. In a world obsessed with winning, would nurturing Jake's spirit be enough? Or would he push him to chase dreams that felt beyond reach? The question lingered in the air, thick with possibility, as father and son shared a silent understanding. With baseball on the horizon, they would face not just the game, but the world together. Jake's statement echoed in John's mind, haunting and inspiring all at once. The sun dipped further, casting elongated shadows over the dusty field. He could see determination in his son, but also the flicker of uncertainty. As the peaceful hush settled back on the diamond, John felt a sudden urge to nurture that fire within Jake. He wanted to encourage him, to shield him from the pain of failure while also preparing him for the inevitable heartaches that life would bring. "Let us try again," John said, his voice steadying as he forced a smile. He adjusted the cap on his head, feeling a rush of protective instinct. "You've got this, buddy." Jake nodded, his eyes narrowing in concentration, banishing doubt. With renewed focus, Jake stepped up to the plate once more. John could see the wheels turning in his son's mind. He clenched the bat like a knight brandishing a sword, ready to face his dragon. As John stood behind him, he whispered encouragement, words just for them, each one crafted like an armor to shield Jake from the world's judgment. Remember, it's not about the hits. It's about standing tall each time. At that moment, the world around them faded, and all that existed were the two of them and this second chance. A rustle of leaves whispered through the air, bathing them both in a light that felt warm and protective. He wished he could gift that feeling to Jake forever. The pitcher, a neighborhood kid trying out for the team, adjusted himself. In that heartbeat of anticipation, John felt his own heart race again. He clutched the fence, memories of his own childhood flooding back. The thrill of the game, the taste of victory, the bitter sting of defeat, each moment vibrated through him like a distant echo. The pitch came soaring toward Jake, and he swung with a fierce cry. This time, it connected. A sweet thud reverberated in the air as the ball shot past the pitcher, soaring into the outfield. Jake's face burst into an incandescent smile, pure and radiant. "Dad! Did you see that?" he yelled, excitement bubbling over like soda fizzing in a glass. John felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "I saw it. I saw you." Just as Jake was rounding the bases, something unexpected caught John's eye from the corner of the field. A group of boys, all wearing their new baseball uniforms with gleaming caps, stood still, watching. Their eyes were locked onto Jake, and John noticed position players glancing at each other, whispers of intrigue sparking between them. It sent a thrill down John's spine. Had Jake's hope ignited more than just his own spirit? Could it be that others saw the same light he now felt? But the thoughts began to creep in again. What if they didn't understand? What if they mocked the way Jake had been cut just days prior? Just as hope raised its shining head, doubt pulled it back down with force. "Hey, knock it out of the park, champ," one of the boys suddenly called out, breaking John's spiraling thoughts. Jake's eyes sparkled brighter than the last rays of sunshine. His confidence surged just as he approached home plate. With every step, he wore that smile wide and bright, radiating the kind of joy that reached deep into John's soul. Just then, a sinking feeling settled in John's stomach. Could this moment be fleeting? Would the victories always be eclipsed by the memories of rejection? Jake bounded home, and as he stepped onto the plate with a flourish, John couldn't help but feel that perhaps everything was shifting. Perhaps this was a turning point. Jake raised his arms in celebration, but John's heart sank. The world was filled with fleeting moments, and one victory could easily be overshadowed by the next setback. But was that the lesson they were meant to learn? As father and son embraced, the chatter of the other boys lessened, and John's thoughts clouded again with uncertainty. Would the lessons of today be enough for the tougher days ahead? The game had just begun, but the road ahead remained unpredictable. What would it take to make this moment last, to ensure that hope didn't fade? As Jake looked up at him, eyes brimming with joy, a new question bubbled to the surface: would they be prepared for whatever lay ahead? The thought lingered like a whisper on the wind, hinting at challenges yet to come. The moment stretched, each heartbeat pulsing with uncertainty. As Jake squealed with delight, still riding the high of his hit, John pulled him in for a tight hug. It felt like the world had shrunk, just the two of them and their shared joy. A moment so bright it could dim the darker memories lurking nearby. "Did you see how far it went?" Jake's eyes danced, reminding John of bright stars breaking through a night sky. "I did. And it was amazing, buddy." John couldn't contain his own smile, feeling proud and relieved. But a nagging doubt still lingered, whispering that this ephemeral joy could slip away just as easily as it had arrived. "Let us get you a drink," John said, guiding Jake off the field. As they walked, the group of boys remained huddled by the sidelines. John caught snippets of their laughter, mixed with the occasional call of encouragement. They were young, hopeful, but still so vulnerable. Just like Jake. "Dad, do you think they will play with me?" Jake ventured, glancing back at the boys. "Of course. You just need to keep showing them what you've got." John's heart sank again. What if showing wasn't enough? What if they dismissed Jake's enthusiasm? Yet seeing the light in Jake's eyes made it impossible to echo his fears aloud. The world, filled with possibility, was now turning towards them. As they reached the cooler, John pulled out 2 bottles of water. The coolness felt good against his palm, refreshing but also grounding. "Remember what I said, standing tall?" John asked as he handed Jake a bottle. "That applies to more than just the field." Jake nodded, biting his lip as he twisted the cap off. "Like when I was cut, right?" John paused, taken aback. He didn't want to revisit that moment. He wanted today to be about joy and encouragement. But Jake seemed ready to tackle the wilder feelings lurking beneath the surface. "Yeah, buddy," he said slowly. "Even when things get tough, you just have to keep getting back up. That's what really counts." Jake's brow furrowed a bit, pondering. "I was sad for a long time, you know?" "I know." John's heart ached. "It's okay to be sad, Jake. But it's also important to allow yourself to feel joy, too. It's a balance." As they spoke, John noticed the boys eagerly move towards them, the sounds of giggles and excited chatter getting closer. A small knot of worry tightened in his stomach. Would they believe in Jake as he was beginning to? "Hey, awesome hit!" one of the boys called out, giving Jake a friendly thumbs up. John's heart swelled, but fear still lingered like a shadow. "Yeah, nice job," another said, and they approached with an openness that caught Jake off guard. "Thanks," Jake replied, barely containing his excitement. They all exchanged a few more words, and what followed was an invitation to join them for a practice scrimmage. John wanted to leap for joy. But alongside that joy was doubt. Would Jake handle rejection if it came again? "You think you're up for it?" he asked, keeping his tone light. "I want to try." Jake's voice was steady, a ring of certainty that surprised John. "Then let us see it." As Jake joined the cluster of boys, he emerged as part of their lively energy. The whispers faded into cheers, and John felt a swell of pride. It was a fragile moment, so easy to break. But this was just the beginning. Hope felt tangible, shifting through the air. John leaned back against the fence, watching. They were kids daring, unpredictable, just like life itself. Turning his gaze back to Jake, he marveled at the fearless way he dove into the fray. The smile on his face seemed unshakable, buoyed by pure joy. But as the practice went on, John noticed that with every throw, every catch, the tension shifted like an incoming tide. Would this moment be a foundation for something stronger or another lesson of resilience tinged with pain? As laughter bubbled around him, John felt a weight settle on his heart. After all that hope, could this euphoric day soon cast shadows of doubt again? And in that clarity, a new worry blossomed. How would Jake handle the darker days that always seemed to follow? The game was unfolding, and the whispers of friendship filled the air, yet the question remained, would this fleeting happiness be strong enough to withstand the storms ahead? Jake dashed across the field, his small frame bursting with energy that seemed to radiate from every pore. John's heart swelled as he watched his son laughing, a vivid happiness painting his face. The moment stretched. He was no longer the boy who had been cut earlier in the season, but a kid living in the joy of the present. "Look, Dad. I made a catch!" Jake shouted, his voice breaking through the clamor of boyish shouts and the thud of cleats against grass. His arms were raised in mock triumph as he ran back to the group, the other boys cheerfully surrounding him, eager to celebrate this newfound connection. "Way to go, Jake!" one of the boys called out, and John felt the warmth of belonging wash over him. The shadows of doubt began to recede, even if just a little. Just a moment before, he had feared for Jake's heart. But now, there was laughter instead. Moments like this could mend the old wounds, couldn't they? Still leaning against the fence, John couldn't help but smile. But the tightness in his chest hadn't fully loosened yet. A part of him wanted to protect Jake from anything that could dull his shine. He shifted his weight, anxiety creeping in as he imagined a scenario where the boys would snap back into their competitive selves, leaving Jake on the sidelines again. However, the game pressed on. Every throw seemed to ignite new excitement, and Jake was embracing it with open arms. With each gleeful squeal, it was clear that he was not just playing but truly enjoying himself. He seemed to belong. But then it happened. Jake darted after a long pass, his little legs pumping hard, face a mask of determination. Just as he reached for the ball, the small distraction of the sun caught him off guard. In his zealous chase, he couldn't turn his eyes away from it. And then the inevitable happened. The ball slipped through his fingers. "Ah, man! That was mine!" Jake yelled, frustration clear like a thunderstorm brewing. The boys' laughter turned into light-hearted teasing. "Don't worry, you'll get it next time." Another boy chimed in, but the spacing between their words felt sharp. In that moment, John saw something shift in Jake's posture, a flicker of disappointment darkening the thrill that had just lit him up. "Jake, you're all right?" John called out, his voice straining with concern. He wanted to jump in, to shield his son from those cutting jabs and the sting of rejection, but he knew better. This was a lesson worth feeling. Jake took a deep breath, his mouth forming a tight line as he tried to shake off the moment. He steeled himself, and suddenly, John was right there again, looking at the boy who had fought through sadness, fear, and doubt to stand unyielding. Would he let this moment ground him, or would he learn to rise again? The game continued, and Jake grew resolute. "Watch me!" he shouted, determination sparking anew. He dove back into the rhythm of the game, chasing after the ball with a fierce longing, as if every catch meant reclaiming the happiness that had momentarily slipped away. The scene shifted. John focused on Jake's movements, quick, confident, pushing through that haze of self-doubt. He could see the spark return, illuminating the field with the kind of resilience that reflected life's greatest lessons. But just as John savored this shift, the unexpected happened. The ball flew in his direction, gliding high above the field and toward the sidelines. Time froze. Jake turned, his eyes locked on the spiraling object. "Dad!" he called, the plea for help mixing into a moment that felt both crucial and fragile. John's heart raced. Would Jake seize this chance, or would fear take hold once again? In the span of those heart-stopping seconds, all eyes on Jake, John's breath caught in his throat. Something inside him shifted. Could this be a turning point? Would Jake grasp this moment and turn it into a story of triumph, or would the weight of expectation pull him down? As the ball fell, the world narrowed to that singular point of impact. The choice loomed before them. Jake's small body tensed as he stalked the approaching ball, determination etched in his face. Time dilated around him, the world a mere blur. He could hear the laughter of the boys around him fade into the background, silenced by the drumbeat of his anxious heart. There was only the ball and the chance to reclaim not only the game but perhaps his own sense of worth. "Catch it, Jake!" the other boys urged, their voices a mix of encouragement and teasing. But in that moment, all Jake could feel was the weight of all the times he had fallen short. He lunged forward, arms outstretched, the ball spiraling down, beckoning him. He could hear John's heart pounding from the sidelines, a steady rhythm echoing the strangled hope rooting itself deep in his chest. Would Jake manage this time? Would his boy rise above the doubts that threatened to drag him down? Jake's fingers brushed against the ball as it descended. For a heartbeat, just a heartbeat, he thought he had it. But it slipped again, too quick, too evasive. He stumbled, loss flashing across his face like a summer storm coming in. "Come on!" one of the boys shouted, now filled with the kind of encouragement that felt more like a jab than support. Jake straightened as he fell back into the game, determination glistening in his eyes. But John sensed the hesitation still lingering beneath the surface. With the game in full swing, Jake forged ahead, refusing to be tethered by the disappointment that sought to root him in place. He chased after the ball again, eyes locked to its path, muscles working as he prepared to spring. He had the chance here to redefine this moment, and then it happened. The pulse in John's heart surged as he watched Jake leap, his small legs uncoiling with the tension of hope. It was now or never, their world intertwined in that single breath. "Got it!" Jake exclaimed, plucking the ball from midair. Cheers erupted around him. His face lit up, a bright beacon of triumph that drowned out the lingering whispers of doubt. John shouted, exhilaration spilling from him as he jumped up in jubilation. "That's my boy." The pride swelling in John's chest felt electric. This was more than about the game, it was about Jake's journey, the heart he put into it. With that jubilant moment came a tranquil stillness, a realization hitting both of them at once. The game, the laughter, the resilience, this was what moved life forward. It wasn't about winning or losing, it was about rising, about being unafraid to reach for what brought joy. "See, Dad? I told you I could do it," Jake breathlessly proclaimed, his eyes sparkling as he looked over at his father. John knelt by the fence, overwhelmed with emotion. "You didn't just do it, Jake. You showed everyone what it means to fight through doubt and come out stronger." The crowd's cheers swirled around them, but John found a quiet space amid the joyous chaos. In Jake's eyes, he saw the flicker of something profound. Was this just a game, or was it a formative moment in his son's life? But just as he thought they had reached a place of understanding, doubts clouded John's mind again. Had Jake truly turned a corner, or was this just temporary? Would the boy remember this feeling when the next challenge arose? The game came to a halt for a brief moment as Jake looked down, pondering. With a furrowed brow, he whispered softly for only John to hear, "Dad, can I keep playing my way? I want to be brave." John's heart soared, but the weight of his answer settled heavily on his tongue. Could he give Jake the freedom to navigate his own path? As the sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows, John realized the biggest challenge lay ahead, not just for Jake, but for him. Would he trust his son to sail uncharted waters, to make mistakes and grow? Would he allow Jake the space to create his own story? "Jake," he began, the looming question lingering in the air. Would he choose courage over fear? And at that moment, the true game was about to begin. The sun dipped lower, a golden hue embracing the field as John struggled to find the right words. He saw Jake's eager face, the light in his eyes full of promise, yet a knot twisted in John's stomach. "Jake," John tried again, his voice softer now, "it's not just about playing your way, it's about understanding what that means. It's about learning." Jake's excitement dimmed for a moment, replaced by confusion. "But Dad, I just want to be me. Isn't that enough?" John's heart felt heavy. He longed to reassure his son while grappling with his own fears. What if Jake's way meant making hard choices, or facing tough situations without a safety net? He was thrusting into a world of uncertainties, and John wasn't sure if he could let go just yet. "Of course, it's enough," John said, forcing a smile. "But being brave sometimes means knowing when to ask for help, too." Jake blinked, processing this. The confusion washed away momentarily, replaced by steely resolve. "I can do it, Dad. I want to face whatever comes, but I want to do it my way." As Jake stood firm, shifting slightly from one foot to the other, John recognized the raw fire in his son, the courage that had been beckoning to be unleashed. It reminded him of his own childhood when he had fought battles of self-doubt, longing for the approval that often felt just out of reach. The shrill whistle of the game interrupted their moment, allowing both father and son to step back into the flow of life around them. But now, a different kind of energy buzzed in the air. It was more profound, laden with connection and understanding. Jake bounced back to join his friends. His laughter rang out, bright and carefree. He was energized, a magnet pulling the other boys in toward him. John watched as they embraced the playful rhythm of the game, a dance of resilience wrapping around them all. With each kick, each shout, the joy of the moment expanded, but in the back of John's mind, worry crept back in. Was Jake just masking his doubts with bravado? Would he truly find his own strength, or would the pressure of expectations curl around him like a tightening noose? Suddenly, Jake fell to the ground. The laughter faded, and silence blanketed the field. John's breath caught in his throat as he rushed forward. Fear coiled around him. He forced himself to stay calm. Was this it? Was it another moment of failure? But then he saw Jake, sitting up, shaking his head while chuckling. "I'm good, Dad. Just tripped over my own feet." Jake waved away the collective concern from the other boys, who stood frozen in uncertainty. "See, I'm okay. Just a new way to play." He called, laughter spilling from him, as his friends slowly relaxed and joined in with chuckles of relief. John's heart surged. That light of his son shone again. Could it be that this messiness, this beautiful chaos, was exactly what Jake needed? Keep being brave, John shouted, his voice strong and clear, the words ringing with new conviction. Jake nodded, his face glowing with determination, and John felt a sense of weight lifting. Maybe it was a journey, one they would navigate together. But as thoughts swirled in his mind, John couldn't shake another lingering question. If he had placed all his hopes on Jake's bravery, what might happen when the next storm rolled in? The world around them pulsed with vibrant energy. Parents cheered, boys shouted, summer air filled with hope. But a twinge of doubt lingered at the edges of John's thoughts. Could Jake hold on to this courage in the face of harder challenges? Was it possible that the next leap Jake would make would not land him on solid ground but rather thrust him squarely into unknown depths that could shake his spirit? As the sun dipped below the horizon, igniting the sky with hues of orange and pink, John knew they had crossed a threshold. But with every new step Jake took, another layer of uncertainty arose. Would they both be ready for what came next? The whistle blew again, cutting through John's whirlwind of thoughts. Jake was back in motion, bounding after the ball like he had just discovered a hidden superpower. Each sprint, each playful shove from his friends, displayed that undeniable spark of joy, but in the core of John's heart, a mix of pride and dread twisted him up inside. The game picked up pace, boys cheered, and the field was alive, yet John's own personal battleground loomed large. He fought the urge to pull Jake aside, to shield him, to lay down the stern warnings of life's unpredictability. He wanted to wrap his son in certainty, but just as quickly, he recognized it wasn't what Jake needed. The boy craved adventure, craved to stumble and rise on his own terms. Stay light on your feet, John shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. Jake's grin was infectious, mirroring the laughter of friends. They danced around him like spirits, urging him onward. Yet, fear whispered to John, what if those feet fell not just on grass, but into the jagged edges of reality? And then it happened. With a burst of excitement, Jake darted toward the goal, his fierce determination plain as day. The ball took a wild bounce, catching Jake off guard. He lunged. And time seemed to suspend. For a heartbeat, John's world narrowed into a single blink. Everything faded, but the moment Jake lost his balance, the ground closing in on him. Jake! John's cry erupted just as the world swayed back into focus. Jake hit the ground with a thud. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers, parents freezing, friends pausing. A cold dread washed over John that twisted his stomach in knots, but just as quickly, Jake rolled over, springing onto his feet again, a triumphant beam lighting up his face. He dusted off his shorts as if he had just stumbled on a pebble instead of falling in a full-out crash. Did you see that? I almost scored, he exclaimed, bursting with adrenaline. Relief flooded John like a warm wave. It was more than just the fall. Jake accepting the stumble solidified a reality John had been wrestling with. This was part of his journey. Falling and getting back up was woven into the fabric of growing up. It was an awkward dance, still very much in progress, yet the exultation fading from Jake's face hinted at something deeper. Within that initial brightness, John saw a flicker of uncertainty brush against Jake's eyes. What if that fall hadn't just been about excitement? What if it stirred other fears? Are you really okay? John asked, his voice softer now, laced with concern. Of course, Dad. I'm tougher than I look. Jake shot back, but it was the slight edge in his tone that kept John anchored to the moment. Feeling the weight of unasked questions envelop him like a shroud, John couldn't shake the notion that Jake's bravado, while genuine, might be papering over deeper worries. When they returned to the car in a bubble of laughter, Jake's spirit seemed unscathed. But John sensed the cracks forming. The ride home was filled with stories, the air crackling with the day's excitement. But as reality seeped back in, John's heart squeezed tight. The world was relentless in its challenges, and there were no pamphlets for what lay ahead. As Jake leaned back in his seat, eyes shining with the stories of triumphs, John asked, what happens when the fall isn't just part of the game? What will you do then? Jake's laughter faded into thoughtful silence. The light of adventure flickered as his gaze turned out of the window. In that quiet, something shifted within John. Would he be able to keep supporting his son through the heavy stuff, too? The dawn of teenagers, the roller coaster of experiences ahead, and the uncertainty of what life might throw next loomed large. Suddenly, John wasn't just a spectator to Jake's journey. He was one of its architects. As they pulled into the driveway, a question hung heavily in the air. Could John help build the courage that Jake needed, this time, for the real fears that lingered just beyond the horizon? John turned off the ignition, the car still humming softly as he tried to shake off the weight of his thoughts. It felt like an anchor was sitting heavy in his chest. He watched Jake, brimming with energy, bounce out of the car and sprint towards the house. The sunlight illuminated his son's wild hair, making him look like some kind of superhero. Yet, beneath that vibrant exterior, John sensed the shadows lurking. He followed Jake inside, where the chaos of daily life awaited, the aroma of dinner mingling with rhythmic laughter from the television. But every smile in the room felt like a mask. As John moved through it all, the laughter felt distant, a world away from the one his heart was battling. "Dad. You missed the best part," Jake exclaimed, sliding into a chair at the dinner table, his face flushed with excitement. His friends had come over, the air thick with the noise of their chatter. "I saw you almost score." "That was something else," John replied, forcing a smile, his eyes scanning each of their faces. Children, carefree and unburdened. Yet the conversation twisted unexpectedly. One of Jake's friends, a boy with a crooked grin, chimed in, "But you fell hard, man. You could be really hurt yourself." Jake's laughter faltered for just a moment, those early shadows flickering through again. "Yeah, but I didn't." Jake's defiance reemerged like a shield. "It was awesome." "Of course, you didn't." John encouraged, the words spilling out almost too easily. He wanted his son to bask in this moment, to find strength in his fall. Yet inside, John's doubts bubbled again, fighting to rise to the surface. After dinner, with his friends outside, Jake settled onto the living room floor. He rifled through his backpack, still caught in the whirlwind of the day. John resolved to seize this rare moment, one where maybe vulnerability could break through the boy's bravado. "Hey, buddy," John started, his heart racing. "About that fall today, are you really okay? I mean, it was a tough one." Jake looked up, the spark dimming a little. "Dad, I told you. I'm fine." But there was a flicker in his eyes, now a challenge waiting to be faced. "Can I ask you something?" John said, choosing his words like ammunition. "What would happen if one day you fall and it's not just a game? How would you handle something like that?" Silence enveloped the room. Jake's demeanor shifted as he pondered. The bravado cracked, revealing something deeper. I don't know," he whispered, his voice so small. "I guess I would just try to get back up." "Sometimes that's easier said than done," John replied, feeling the lump in his throat swell. "I want you to know it's okay to feel scared. It doesn't make you weak." Jake looked up, confusion visible on his face. "But I'm not scared," he said defiantly, yet John noticed the quiver in his lower lip. "Sometimes our fears hide behind other things, buddy. And talking about them helps. Trust me, I'm here for all of it." John could feel the atmosphere shift, the weight of unspoken fears creeping in, heavy and potent. The corners of Jake's mouth turned up a little, hesitant yet hopeful. "I guess I won't always be okay, huh?" John felt his heart crack just slightly. "No, but we can be okay together. Life is like that, unpredictable. But it doesn't mean we face it alone." The warmth in the room felt tangible, as if a blanket of understanding was slowly wrapping around them. Jake didn't say anything, instead, he leaned into John's side, resting his head against his father's shoulder. In that moment, John felt a flicker of hope ignite, a sign that his son was searching for strength within himself. But then, the door swung open. A gust of wind carried in a flurry of excitement, and with it, Jake's friends spilled back into the room, their voices slicing through the intimate moment. "Come on, let us go play outside," one of the boys called, interrupting the time John had sought. Jake pulled away, his face lighting up again. "Okay, be right there," he shouted, his laughter echoing once more through the house. As Jake dashed off, something shifted within John. The conversations had changed him. They had started to tap into the reservoir of emotions he had long avoided. Looking out the window, John caught sight of Jake laughing with his friends, every bit the boy he was meant to be, full of hope and adventure. But just before he closed the window, he caught Jake's eyes, deep pools of uncertainty hiding just beneath the surface. As night settled in, John grappled with his own vulnerability. The journey ahead was filled with wounds and healing, stumbles and victories. He realized that their adventure together was only beginning. What lay ahead? Would John find the courage to peel back those layers of fear from both their hearts? The questions pulsated within him, waiting for tomorrow to bring clarity. John sat on the sofa long after the laughter faded into the background, a soft echo of joy drowning in his mixed emotions. The light from the TV cast flickering shadows across the room, illuminating a space that felt both familiar and foreign. He tried to embrace the warmth of family life, but his heart remained tethered to the heaviness that had accompanied him throughout the evening. As Jake's laughter filled the yard, John found himself shaking his head softly. A part of him wished he could wrap Jake in a protective bubble, shielding him from all of life's challenges. But could he truly do that? Or was he merely projecting his own struggles onto his son? Why was it so hard to confront these uncertainties? Pushing himself off the couch, he strolled outside, the cool evening air brushing against his skin. He watched as Jake raced across the yard, his friends trailing close behind. Their joy was infectious, yet John remained rooted in place, caught between the carefree innocence of childhood and the weight of the adult world. The laughter faded into the distance as the kids dashed into a game that painted the grass with their energy. Suddenly, John felt the urge to join them, to be present in the lightness that was Jake's world. Holding back any thoughts of fears or failures, he moved closer and called out, "Hey, mind if I join the fun?" Jake's face lit up in surprise and delight. "Dad. Come on." His son gestured excitedly as if John had just invited himself into an exclusive club. And just like that, the moment turned into a whirlwind of foot races and playful shoving. For those brief seconds, John felt the stress slip away, the weight of uncertainty lifted as he laughed and chased after Jake. But as the game wore on, exhaustion set in. John finally plopped down on the grass, panting. His heart raced, but it was different now. This time, it was a kind of exhilaration. The other kids ran off, while Jake collapsed beside him, taking shallow breaths. Their laughter simmered into an easy silence, filled only with the sounds of the distant crickets serenading the night. "Dad?" Jake's voice broke the peaceful moment. It was small yet steady, filled with a seriousness that intrigued John. "Yeah, buddy? Why did you ask me earlier about falling and all that?" Jake questioned, glancing sideways with an intent look. "You worried?" John nodded slowly. "Sometimes I worry about you getting hurt, but I especially worry when it comes to the bigger falls in life. I don't want you to feel like it's all on you. I guess I'm just trying to figure things out myself." "Like what?" Jake pushed, stirring the conversation deeper. "Like how to be brave when you feel scared. How to admit it's okay to fall sometimes, not just in games but in life," John admitted, the words reflecting his own vulnerability more than he intended. Jake shifted, contemplating. "It's weird. I thought being brave meant you can't be scared. Bravery is about facing fear, kiddo. It's knowing fear exists, but it doesn't have to control your actions. You can be scared and still go out there and play," John replied, his heart racing with a vulnerable honesty he rarely allowed. The boy considered this, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding. "Oh, so, like, if I fall in a game, I just get back up? And if I'm afraid of other stuff, I can still try?" "Exactly." John felt an immense weight lift from his chest. "And remember, you're never alone. We'll get up together." Jake nodded, his features brightening visibly. They shared a gaze, and for a moment, John saw a glimmer of relief in his son's eyes. "Dad, do you promise you won't freak out when I fall in life?" Jake asked, a tremor of hope lacing his tone. John smiled, the promise resonating with deep resolve. I promise, Jake. We've got this, together. Suddenly, the night sky darkened visibly, and within moments, a single star erupted brightly among the vastness, their wishes glittering in a beautiful solitude. But as John intertwined his fingers with Jake's, a distant worry flickered back in his mind, as though the shadows that had once loomed were still waiting to be confronted. What fears would arise next? What if the real falls were yet to come? Caught between hope and uncertainty, John felt the night whisper questions he was not ready to answer. The following day dawned crisp and clear, the sunlight pouring into John's kitchen like a burst of optimism. Jake was up early, his excitement bubbling over like a pot too full on the stove. Dad, can we go throw the ball around? He asked, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Sure thing, champ. John replied, his heart lifting with Jake's energy. He poured 2 glasses of orange juice, feeling a swell of gratitude for the simplicity of the moment, father and son, just enjoying each other. As they stepped outside, the air felt alive and electric. John watched Jake's determination as he launched the ball toward him. The joy radiating from his son was contagious. With each throw, laughter filled the space between them, stitching together memories of resilience and strength. Nice throw! John cheered, catching the ball with one hand, feeling the thrill of their connection. Your turn, Dad! Jake shouted, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. The weight of yesterday melted away under the warmth of the sun, but as the game continued, John sensed the shadows lurking. The thought of potential failure nested in the back of his mind. Would Jake keep that courage? What if the next challenge left an imprint? Would he still bounce back if life threw something heavier their way? Dad, watch me. Jake's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts as he sprinted to field the ball. The boy dove, arms outstretched. John held his breath. A perfect catch. Joy exploded across Jake's face, illuminating his features like a beacon. See, Dad? I did it. Jake beamed, exuding pure joy. You sure did. John replied, awe filling his voice. The moment brought a warm surge to John's heart. This was the essence of what he had been hoping for, a moment woven with laughter, innocence, and boldness. Yet, behind that happiness, John felt an anxiety ripple through him. He recovered it with a smile but couldn't deny that vulnerabilities remained. He felt compelled to talk to Jake again, but now, in a different context. Jake, he began cautiously, tossing the ball lightly in the air, what do you think will happen next time those challenges come, when maybe you'll feel like fourth string on a team again? Jake took a moment, his face furrowing in thought. I might feel bad, but if I try again, I'll get back up, right? His expression was serious now, no longer just a carefree child, but a boy stepping toward wisdom. Yes, buddy. You'll get back up. But remember, it's okay to feel bad, too. It's part of the game. Even if I'm sad? Jake's sincerity curled around John's heart, squeezing tight. Especially then, John affirmed, pride swelling within him. Being brave and being scared is hard. But there's strength in facing it together. Suddenly, a group of neighborhood kids came into view, dragging their bikes behind them. One of the boys called out, "Hey, come join us." Jake glanced back, his eyes glistening with excitement. "Dad, can I?" Jake asked, every inch of him eager to leap into the adventure. "Of course. Just remember everything we talked about," John said, embracing the pride and worry at once. With a nod, Jake dashed off, joining the cluster of boys, laughter bursting forth like fireworks. John couldn't help but smile, the tension easing as he watched the camaraderie, the secret language of friendship blooming. As he moved back to the porch, John glanced at Jake, who, despite the growing distance, was still in the midst of laughter and reckless joy. This was it. His heart had expanded not only in the presence of triumph but in the understanding that Jake's journey would hold both victories and staggering moments of failure. And that wasn't just okay, it was vital. He knew they would face the trials ahead, together, and that assurance filled him with warmth. Watching Jake throw the ball, take a tumble, and jump right back to his feet gained new meaning. This was the cycle, the beauty of rising after the fall. John grabbed a glass of lemonade, taking a sip under the sun, soaking in the glow of the moment. They may not have all the answers, but he believed in this journey. This was not just about baseball or friendship, it was about life, love, and the undeniable truth that with every stumble, they would learn to cherish the rising. And as the sun began to dip on that golden day, John felt that hope blossom within their hearts, a brilliant promise that would light their way, come what may. "Hey, Dad." Jake's voice rang clear as he sprinted back toward him. "I can't wait to tell you about everything." At that moment, John realized something crucial. No matter the challenges ahead, no matter the fear lurking in the shadows, they were a team. And with that, he knew genuine connection could illuminate their path. In deepening twilight, John smiled, the peace settling around them like a warm embrace, and whispered to himself, "We've got this together." And just like that, the world felt a little less daunting, each spark of joy focusing on that powerful truth: every fall is just a chance to rise again. Now is the moment. You need to subscribe now to catch the next heartwarming stories, adventures, and transformations happening every week. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the positivity flowing. Don't forget to comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting journey. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Every action counts.